All right, we're good to go.
Okay, who would like to say the prayer? 1, 2, 3, not it.
I can say it.
Okay.
Dearly Father, thanks for this nice afternoon that we've been able to join together as a class and discuss the case for this week. And please let us have a clear understanding and ability to express our opinions. In Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Okay. Spiritual thought in 2 weeks is General Conference. And I would encourage you to watch it in your pajamas.
That was deep.
I thought of it myself. Okay. With regard to question number 3, with regard to key elements of the business model, what should CloudFlare keep or start doing with respect to CVP, GTM, TOM, CFF, and create a table that looks like this. So when I heard this, I thought, WT freak, what the freak? I don't know what CVP, GTM, TOM, CFF. You guys, do we want to revisit those?
I just Googled them. I forgot what CVP is already, but GTM is go-to market strategy, like how pretty much how you achieve a competitive advantage, reach customers. The TOM is kind of like the
Okay, CVP says central venous pressure, which is probably not the one I'm looking for.
Cost, volume, profit.
Right.
Is like the organizational structure of the company, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So let's kind of go through each. CVP. So that would be the cost, volume, profit, or the okay. CVP, describe key elements, cost, volume, profit. I mean, it kind of alluded to the fact that their business was taking a loss every year, it seemed like, based on the amount of costs that they had relative to the amount of expenses and revenues. So
yeah, they needed to restructure their cost.
yeah, one of the things I was struck by with regard to that is, you remember part of the thing it said, it talked about how they had one of their companies they went and met with, I guess their cost was like $2 million a year, and they said we can do it for $40,000. Maybe they are coming in a little bit too low relative to what they ought to. You know what I mean? Maybe they ought to have more built in for profit.
Yeah.
So keep or start doing an organizational implications. It seems like based on their to the moon success that they've had with acquiring clients and providing their services to so many people in such a short period of time, even without a sales force, it almost seems like they're giving away the farm and everyone's on board. And maybe they should start being a little more expensive. You know, just
yeah. I think they need a sales force and put some structure in place on how much they're gonna do what for.
right. Agree. Okay, anything you'd add? Brayden, Andrew?
I don't think so.
I mean, I think that's just the whole, like, it's all tied into each other with kind of what Sarah said about the structure and how they're growing too fast because they're not charging enough and they're not able to keep up because they're growing too fast. And so I think it's all just wrapped around kind of the structure of how it is right now and their business model and what they're charging. And so I think that would be a good first step is to bump up their price for their service. Because like you said, they're just giving it away at this point. Yeah, they're having rapid growth, which again is causing more problems. So I think that'll kind of like settle things if they raise the price where they're not growing so fast and they have money to spend on things. And it's just all connected with each other, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so GTM, go to market, describe key elements, keep doing or starting, and organizational impact. I mean, their go to market they did was that they had won a couple of contests. They basically had gone and received almost through word of mouth this rapid growth, you know, in the marketplace, which I don't think is a bad thing. But if your costs aren't really, if you're not profitable, you're not cash flowing, then it's not a great, I mean, it's not a bad thing. The amount of, you know, how they went to market. It's just it really comes back to cost, though.
It was,
very inexpensively.
yeah, it was a very inexpensive way to market, but like you just said, really, they just relied on word of mouth marketing, like companies referring people. But I mean, in past case studies we've read, like Dropbox has worked for them. I think it was actually the same competition that Dropbox entered, but it worked for them and it's relatively inexpensive. So that's a good part of it.
Yeah, I think if they, I think the way they went to market's great. It's just the fact that they can't turn those free subscriptions into paying customers. And that's where the Salesforce comes in. So their word of mouth worked well.
Right. What did they
That's
have, a
why
conversion of like 4% or something?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're just stuck in like the startup stage, like with the amount of employees they have and like their way they're marketing and things like that. They just aren't transitioning into a more stable, profitable company.
Yeah. Okay. TOM. Those who don't know. Target operating model. Target operating model for business is within, it's, they're different. Basically, what's their target operating model?
They don't seem to have one.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of said that they would be willing to do business with anyone, anywhere, at any time, kind of thing. Even some less than reputable customers, but they said it's really because we do such good work. It's one curry in favor with pretty much everyone. But yeah, they don't really have a target operating model.
I think it goes back to what Andrew said about them being stuck in that startup mode. They don't have a model for anything.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else with that? CFF. CFF, this is the I wish they would just stop getting cute and just tell us what these acronyms are. Cash flow forecast. They get a big F here. Their cash flow forecast is not great. They are super busy, have a ton of employees, not a ton, but they have a lot of employees, a lot of revenue, and despite it all, they make no money. Not only do they make no money, they lose hand over fist. So that's not really a winning formula.
Well, I think I don't remember his name, Matthew Brent or whatever. His forecast is all in his head, but he thinks it's going to be really good. And I think it has the potential of being really good. But I don't know if he has anything down on paper to actually say how he's going to get to where he thinks he's going to be.
Right.
Because he keeps, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, we're going to have the money.
Right, and I guess he figures if they eventually just do enough in revenue and add enough clients, eventually it turns the corner and becomes profitable. And that may be true. I mean, he's got a pretty healthy I mean, he's cash flowing really good. It's just that it's not enough given the amount of work that he's doing, the number of employees and the amount of money that they're just not profitable.
Yeah.
It's not even close, in other words. Okay. Anything else with that? So I think they need to increase their not the cost, but their fees and their charge and what they charge.
Yeah, they just need to get rid of the whole letting people have it for free thing. I think that's kind of dumb.
Yeah, or make that a smaller section, like so people don't want to stay there.
Right.
That's what Dropbox did.
Yeah.
They do like
Yeah, I mean,
gigabytes of free storage, but nobody wants just 2 gigabytes. So they could do it like you just said, Sarah, like just give them a little bit, like kind of give them a taste of what for subscription and make them actually pay.
Yeah, because they said they were working with like GoDaddy and stuff, and I've set up a website with GoDaddy before, and so if you give them a small little 5-day free, so you can see what's going on, and then make them pay for it.
yeah, if there's some way, or if you offer a free service, then there's some way to monetize it. Like, you know, if there's, I don't know what through advertising or through some other way. I mean, to just offer it for free where 96% of your customers are going to want the free model, and you know, you give away the farm, and then you're not charging, only the 4% are basically paying for the service. It's just not a winning model.
Yep.
Okay. Working as a group, take a closer look at CloudFlare's cash flow formula. Suppose we had to hire more engineers to direct proportion of how we scale. How long will it take to become profitable using actual spreadsheet and turn it in after the discussion?
Ooh, whose turn is it for the spreadsheet?
Oh, heaven help us. I think it's me.
Well, now you know what you're working on.
So
they said that they
how could you
average.
possibly know that?
Well, they actually have numbers from a company. They take an average of about 150,000 per whoever we're looking at here, per engineer on total package. So that's salary, overhead, all of that. So with 35 employees, you times that by 150,000 each. That gives you an estimate of how much you need to cover that kind of stuff. So for every new hire, you'd have to add another 150. So it's going to be a long time because they're so far down right now.
I couldn't hear that.
Oh. So they said in the case that when you're trying to figure out, when they try and guesstimate how much a company's making, that they times every engineer by 150,000 on cost. And that should cover, you know, the rent, the employee's salary, all that basic business cost. And so I don't remember.
So they need 150,000 of revenue for every engineer that they hire. But I guess the question I don't understand is, it says how many engineers do they need to hire to be profitable? Well, the better question is, how many engineers do you need to fire to be profitable? Because you're losing money. So if they hire 100 more engineers, they don't have the revenues right now to support that.
Well, I think with that, so it's kind of twofold. And like, I don't think right away after they hire the engineers that they'll turn profitable. But I think in the long run, like they were talking about, because their employees are so overworked and burnt out, they can't do everything they need to. And they don't have that HR department. They don't have the sales force. All those, well, so I guess not engineers. Does it say engineers or just workers?
in here it says engineers, but it needs to be both. I agree with you.
So I think once they hire more, like obviously there has to be math done and it has to be worked in, but just for an example, they hire 5 more and they open a new department, which kind of structures it more, and they're able to make more of a profit sort of thing because they're more efficient, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why does CloudFlare's management want to get big get big fast?
Startup, when they see that success wants to get big fast. It's, you know, that momentum and that excitement. But normally it's good to make sure that it's getting big and progressing at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be right here.
So that,
Keep going.
you left.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, so those numbers I was looking at are on page 6 of the case that talk about how much per employee and stuff. And how they figured out how, you know, how they guesstimated how much the company was making.
Right, and this is where I don't understand. If this rule held for CloudFlare, which had 35 employees, then such expenses would equal 5.25 million. Total expenses would be 7.85 million, implying a 3.05 million loss. And they're saying, well, but if we hired a bunch more $150,000 per year employees, at what point would you become profitable? Well, what is this, like government math? You can't, doesn't work.
Well, I think this is after our discussion about what they need to do to change. And so if you took their model and changed some of the numbers, like, you know, how much are they going to charge? Say we up the subscription to $40 a month per customer and got 15% of our customers to have subscriptions. You know, that might change all our numbers. We can do something like that.
Okay, so along those same lines, what benefit does CloudFlare receive from scale? So, I mean, you're obviously going to have some fixed costs so your economies of scale eventually becomes profitable because you're not going to have to continue to, I mean, like some things are going to increase in cost, but some things are, you know, bandwidth and some of those kinds of things are going to, you know, but I don't know, a lot of them is going to, it seems like a lot of them would go up, I would think.
He does mention in here that the cost of, I don't know all the terms for all of that stuff, the bandwidth and stuff, has been going down. And I know storage costs have been going down too, online. So some of that will go down. Plus, I don't think once they get to a certain point, they won't have to have as many hours and engineers, I don't think. Because they're still trying to grow, and once they get to a point, they'll be able to kind of level off.
Right.
Something that the case mentioned was with the more customers they got, the more data they'd get from the websites, like different people who are posting spam, and they would be able to offer like a better service. If that makes sense. So the more large in scale they get, the better their service gets because they have more data to work with.
Okay. How does CloudFlare have economies of scale? Example, margin cost decrease with increasing customers. Explain your answer.
Say that one more time. Will you read that again? Sorry.
Does CloudFlare have economies of scale? I.e., in other words, like marginal cost decrease with increasing customers? And I think the answer is yes. It said there was something about there was one example they showed where their costs decrease, as their volume increases, and I'm trying to figure out what that was pointing to, but.
I think what Braden was just saying follows into that too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to read the language in the thing, but I think to Braden's point, it's as you take on a greater and greater and greater load, then the cost for it could go down. Okay. Does CloudFlare have network effects, i.e. the value of service increases for each customer when there are more customers using it? Explain your answer. Have network effects. The value of the service increases for each customer when there are more customers using it.
Doesn't that go back to what you were saying too, Braden?
I think so.
With the more information they have.
Okay, yeah, I'll go with that. Does CloudFlare have switching costs, i.e. will it be costly or painful for customers to switch to a competitor if there were such a competitor out there? Explain your answer. I think the answer is no, because they said they're not software-based, they're not equipment-based. It's basically getting set up with it, basically as simple as a username and password from pretty much anywhere. So that means that anybody wanting to fire them, they're not married to equipment or software or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
That almost puts them at a disadvantage. What are the reasons my CloudFlare management have to wait to get big fast?
I don't know, just breaking even.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, I think also with just every day, I mean, we become more technically impaired and just, I guess, just to get the market share. So if they grow really fast and everyone joins them and then they kind of switch over to a more expensive model, I mean, a lot of people will stay just because the other services from their competitors are just as expensive. But since they started off free, they got more of the market share. So I could see just come out really fast, grow huge, and then switch over.
I'm sure you made a great point. I didn't hear any of it, but it sounded terrific.
Yeah.
Whoops.
No, I think that's on me, though, not on you.
Oh.
Could also, another reason, just getting big enough to where if somebody else comes in with a similar like business model, like same kind of thing they're doing, like if the competition comes in, like they'll already have the advantage over them. Because right now, if competition were to come in, like they wouldn't have that big of an upper hand because they're still struggling to get out of their old rut.
Okay. What reasons might you suggest for not growing so fast? I think it begins and ends with, for me, profitability. I mean, I get that businesses go in the red when they're first starting out, but to have a business model, I think, where you continue, the larger you get, the more you lose, that's not a winning proposition. And that's, I think, the trajectory they're on.
I think for me, with this case, it's structure. Because they're losing employees because they have no structure. The idea of a free environment at work is great, and I think you can have that and have structure at the same time. it says that the Prince guy never leaves work, and he's single and patient, and he didn't want to go because that's his life, and that's fine for him. But his employees have to know that there's some structure, that they get time off, and this requires. And at the same time, I think that not just the employees need that, but the sales, they need a Salesforce structure. And they're large enough that if they grow anymore, it's going to implode because they don't have that.
Yeah. The way they operate really doesn't allow them to grow as fast as they want to grow.
Yeah.
And I think it'll hurt them later on down the future. So if they continue to lose these great employees, I mean, the culture of the company gets out, and then no one wants to work with them, and then they don't get any good engineers, and then they kind of like you said, employed from inside out, just because, like that one guy they said knows every important person that has to do with engineering. Like he leaves and he starts talking about how bad the company is and how unstructured and how they treat their employees and just overwork them. Like I've been applying for internships in Glassdoor, like previous employees can go on there and leave like reviews and stuff. And I've seen that before, like where they just feel like the company doesn't care about them and just burns them out type of thing. So eventually no one's going to want to work for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't have the cash flow to go and pay these guys anymore because they're already losing money.
I think that the people that they're losing, I think it's like all the important people they hired, like all the people that can make a real significant difference. Like if you read when it explains the employees that left, like it sounds like they're all like Andrew just said, the one guy could have went to DC and helped him out a lot in the future, but because he's burned out, he just quit. So all the people that are quitting are actually really valuable employees. You can't go anywhere without those valuable employees.
Okay.
A good balance.
Discuss the recent resignation for each one, list why they left, and is it worth it to make those changes to keep the people who left? We kind of went through this one, right?
Yeah, they need to make the changes so that nobody else leaves.
Right. What happens to the other employees who work there if changes are implemented? I mean, obviously you want to create a culture where more people stay. And I know that they're trying to go kind of very laxed, not going to micromanage people, going to kind of sit back, but whatever their culture, it seems to be still not conducive to causing people to want to stay. So it requires some change there. Okay, what happens to the other employees who work there? Anything else?
I think that the other employees that are still there, if they see you making the changes, there's there'll be a greater value to them because now they feel like they've been heard. Their suggestions have been taken into account, and that you're actually caring about them as individuals and not just the work they do for you.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of value in that for a company.
Yeah. What do people do? Why do people work at CloudFlare? What keeps them motivated? Did they join the company so they could be told what to do or have a process of culture? I mean, a process and structure, or to change the internet? So why do people join CloudFlare? I think people join CloudFlare that are new because they I would think it's attractive for people to go and want to be part of some new company with new opportunity. The second part of that Do they? What keeps them motivated, and why do they join the company? What do you guys think?
Well, I think a lot of like the hiring that they did, they said that they had looked for people who wanted to change the internet. And so they'd hire those people. And so it wasn't necessarily, they weren't looking for people who didn't want to have structure, who like wanted to have be completely free at work. They were looking for people who were motivated to help them in their goals of changing the internet. And so I think, and like you said, Andrew, people who are going there are wanting to like a new environment where they can, there's like opportunities for advancement. And the way they've structured the company is almost taken that away, because there's like no titles. It just kind of seems like you're there and you're just going to be where you're at for however long you're working there. And so I think what would motivate them would be, I mean, you can keep some freedom there, but you've got to add some structure. Like you've got to like lay out for your employees, like what performance, like how they need to perform in order to get a raise. Like it didn't seem like they communicated that very well. They would just kind of after a year take them in and maybe give them a raise. But if you were to like lay out a plan for them, say if you can do this, accomplish this, then we'll give you a raise. I don't know. You just give them opportunities to advance.
Yeah, I think that's another problem that they had though, because the guy, so I don't remember what his name was that was leaving, but he felt like he wasn't doing anything. I think engineers are really bright people and really smart and like to be challenged. And so since the company wasn't kind of growing, it wasn't improving, it was just kind of being stagnant, the guy felt useless because he's just doing the same thing over and over again, which I think it kind of brought them in because they knew, okay, this is going to challenge us. We're going to change the internet. We're going to create something new. But then once they realized, oh, I'm not doing anything different anymore, they kind of just get bored and want to leave because they're just doing the same thing and being overworked and not kind of putting anything good into it anymore.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I lost you for a sec there, but I agree with that. You don't want to feel overworked and underpaid.
Yeah.
Group decisions should CloudFlare. Should they implement more process and structure, hire a VP or HR, and start using titles? Yes or no?
I think yes.
I think yeah. I don't think they even need a lot of titles, but they definitely need.
They need people at executive levels to try to kind of steer the ship, I think. So I think yes. I would lean more towards yes than no.
Yeah.
Brayden?
I'd say yes.
Okay. Slow down growth, yes or no?
Until they get the rest of it in place, yes.
Can we take it?
Yeah, I think raising prices will slow down growth and also fix some other things as well.
Same.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, and I would say slow down growth. I mean, really, the growth is fine if you do so profitably. You know, I mean, it's going to, by natural occurrence, if you raise costs, then you're going to have you're going to probably lose some people. But honestly, it's not a bad thing because you're losing money right now operating the way that they are. So, okay, discuss what will happen to the company under your recommendations. What will happen to the culture and motivation of current employees? So let's talk about the company and the employees, the current motivation of current employees.
Well, like we've been talking about, I think if they do it in the right way, they can add that structure. It's gonna keep the employees feeling valuable because, you know, now they understand their role and, you know, their benefit of being there, but still keep that culture of kind of being free and self-motivated and things like that. They can kind of combine those, and I think it'll just improve the employees' wanting to be there still.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that it's what's going to also come with it if there's negative impact of the greater structure and those kinds of things, slowing growth down and being able to, I mean, with losing 3 of their coworkers, they don't want their workloads to be put squarely on the shoulders of those that chose to stay. So I think slowing down the amount of growth that they've seen as a company is probably a good move given the kind of turnover that they've experienced. Okay, what happens to the cost structure and therefore the profitability of the company? What do you think? You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they slow down, the cost structure will catch up.
Yeah. Sometimes I have to do a lip check and make sure these things are working because my kids don't hear me. So
I feel like that's kind of a repetitive question because I feel like it's
Yeah.
a million times. Yes.
Yeah. All right. And by the way, so I mean, we kind of talked about this. If you do more business, more isn't always better. So it's not like if you do less, it's going to be less profitable. So
Yeah.
they're not even profitable now. So, okay. That concludes today's CloudFlare case discussion.